An Alternative Depression Guide. Chapter 1. Feeling down is about soul, not pills. The Empty Feeling 1. Life begins at the other side of despair. Jean-Paul Sartre. I see 4 reasons why anyone would feel empty. You're tired or stressed out, you work so hard that the endorphins in your brain have been depleted for the day. You're not inspired about your life. My Free Spirit books is about how to stay inspired by constantly releasing your natural energy. Something happens, like somebody close to you dies, you get sick, you get into an accident, you lose your job, you get a divorce, etc. You're a regular alcoholic, recreational substance user, or you take prescription drugs that wear you out and deplete the endorphins in your system. In every case of feeling empty, there is only one solution to get out of the pit. It's not about going to a mental health expert who will gaslight you and say you're depressed not because he or she cares about you but because they want to make money from you. Remember, never ask a barber if you need a haircut. Never bring a car to a mechanic and say do a tune-up, look for problems and fix them. I did that once as a kid, and when I came back, he took my words to town. The bill was over $1,000. That's how you learn about life. Everybody is in it for the money, even all those phonies pretending to be in the non-profit social service sector. They're jealous of their capitalist counterparts making the big bucks in the business sector. A psychobabblist has a vested interest in gaslighting you, saying you have a serious mental illness. They make it seem like a big deal, diagnose you with an evil-sounding disease called clinical depression, prescribe drugs, then do psychotherapy where he or she will spend untold sessions with you at about $100 a shot, constantly dredging up the past in order to suck money out of you in the guise of treatment. Psychotherapy in itself is all a lie, because bringing up negative things or anything from your past in order to supposedly heal some deep wounded inner child is a scam. It can't help you. The only thing that can help you is to run away from all negative events in your life by being positive, getting outdoors, doing things, talking to people, enjoying your life, running with it. They say you have to confront unresolved negative conflicts in your past by dealing with them and bringing them out into the open, but this just keeps you feeling morbid. You have to start right now and move forward from there. Don't look back. What happened then is gone. It's like the wake a boat leaves behind. It's innocuous, meaningless, harmless. The only purpose it serves is as a justification for so-called therapists to spend lots of time talking to people about their pasts in order to make money off them. That's all it is, a major scam that the formal establishment backs and pretends is a bona fide way to help people deal with their problems. The only way to get over any emptiness is to have your grief period for however long you need it, then get back on your horse of life and keep moving forward. Don't look back. Keep moving every day, releasing inspired energy to match an inherent standard you should feel within yourself of the person you want to be and what you want to do with your life. This is the only way to constantly feel good about your life day after day. You will get tired now and then and feel down. Just sleep it off and get back on it the next day. If you drink alcohol or use recreational drugs, you need a day to recover from them. This is the hangover period. If you do them all the time, you'll feel constantly down and impotent, because this is what alcohol and drugs do to people who constantly use the stuff with no recovery period in between. In any negative situation, you have 2 choices. To mope and sink further down by not releasing your natural energy and thinking negative thoughts incessantly. Forget it, move on, release your natural energy every day to get and hold onto a sense of youthful vital spark. That's how simple it all is. I grant that some people actually have organic brain disorders that make them permanently down and they constantly need depression drugs, but this is a very small percentage of the population. The psychiatrists have no way to measure endorphin and neurotransmitter levels in the brain. Even if they could, they wouldn't know what the baseline was for any individual and whether the problem was a biochemical deficiency in the brain. Even if someone has a biochemical deficiency, in the vast majority of people it's only temporary, because we create our own biochemistry through what we do, don't do, what we think and what we eat. Release inspired, creative, loving energy every day and do things to make you feel good and your endorphins will be high. You'll be feeling good most of the time. The mental health industry makes billions of dollars on the so-called clinical conditions of depression and manic depression/bipolar disorder, and millions of weak, stupid people buy into it thinking they must be right because they're so-called establishment experts, but who are they to know anything more about a human mood than any intellectual or free individual analyzing themselves on their own? There's no great divine wisdom that any one system-sanctioned expert or any formal establishment institution can discover that's any more advanced and enlightened than any enlightened individual seeking to figure out the answers by studying themselves as a case study of one. We're all human. Feeling down is the same process for everyone, therefore anyone should be able to figure out why they feel down on their own, then do something about it by following the intuitive wisdom they were born with. My intuitive wisdom tells me don't mope no matter what. Rest when you need it, but don't ever lay off all the running and the inspired activities I do every day. The cause of your discontentment doesn't matter. The cure is the same regardless of why you're feeling down. Start moving to release your natural inherent energy in order to feel like you're taking your life for a good ride. This will make you feel good and earn you some self-respect. Then keep doing it in a systematic way like I do. I'm true to myself every day. I never falter. I always take my like for a good to great ride in releasing my inspired, loving and hedonistic energies. I know this because I used to monitor myself when I felt complacent and realized that complacency breeds more complacency, which can spiral down if left unchecked to the deepest possible feelings of emptiness, because you're not honoring yourself by releasing the natural energy you were born to release every single day of your life, bar none. I don't analyze myself anymore because it's all second nature to me now. I'm always moving, always doing something to either inspire me or make me feel good in some way. This is how I stay up virtually all the time. I keep living, staying active no matter what. If somebody close to me dies, as has happened before, I say to myself I'll honor them by going on living to honor their memories the way they would have wanted me to, by being the best individual I can be for the spirit of life while I have it. If I get in an accident, I recuperate, then get right back on it. Even if I lose a leg, I'll still have to stay active in my new limited way. If you have a problem with a person in a relationship, don't *T with it. That person is either good for you or not. You know it in your gut. Divorce is often the best solution. Millions of people marry for the wrong reasons, then stay together even if they don't like each other. Watch your pets. They instinctively run around and burn off energy. It's their life force. It keeps them vital. They don't psychoanalyze their pasts. They just keep living. In fact, they barely remember yesterday. They keep going forward. It's a money grab. If you're depressed or feeling down, you got two choices: stay in bed feeling sorry for yourself, losing yourself more and more because you're not releasing your natural energy, or get up off your ass and find your way back to that vital spark you must have had at some point in time by doing tough, worthy, inspired activities to make you feel some self-respect and self-mastery. The empty feeling too. Sometimes you have to see the darkness before you see the light. From a country song. Everybody faces some kind of adversity beyond their control that could dampen your spirit if you let it, and set you on a path towards mundanity if you sit back and let yourself slip away. The only solution is to be strong enough to never let anything destroy the insular Tahiti inside. Some things in life might set you on the path of loss of self for a while, but the true test is to keep finding your way back to the strength and power of your true inspired self, inner standard/soul, over and over again. Have your dark day, your pity party, your moment of weakness, your bout of crying, your illness, deal with it as quickly as possible, then get back onto the real course of your soul's journey, creating an inspired, aesthetic, loving life for yourself no matter what. Find out who you really are and live it out. People are brainwashed into thinking that something outside of themselves can fill up their emptiness, kind of like that old Moody Blues song, looking for someone to change my life, looking for a miracle in my life. They may go shopping and buy useless things, buy the latest sports car, hang out in nightclubs looking for a hero, watch music videos, sign a bunch of autographs, do a lot of drugs aimlessly or anything like that. But a lot of people just either don't realize or aren't willing to pay the price to find that connection to their souls, which, if you can get it, will solve just about all your problems, because once you got it, you're centered, you got you, and you got control of your life. The human being is an open container that always needs a base level of self-knowledge and self-respect, and constant doses of soul, inspiration, and some love in order to feel good. Many people feel empty and lonely but don't exactly know why, which is why we have millions of people doing stupid things to try to make themselves feel good, all the way from capitalist ambition to buying material things to making the scene to religion to the usual addictive things like booze, food, gambling, etc. You have to strip everything away to see yourself as somebody who needs to love yourself, then has to discover what's in your soul and live it out. Love will come as a consequence of you living by your soul. People will see the beauty within you and love you for that. Love is nice, but I don't believe that by itself it can fill you up, because you have to find that place within yourself to feel peaceful and good. When you're tired, troubled or fatigued, all logic goes out the window. You want something and you want it now to take away that empty feeling. I get that empty feeling when I wear myself out through excessive physical activity or through lack of sleep. Sometimes I stay up all night, then by about the 30th hour, it hits. It depletes something in my brain that makes me feel tired and empty, but I'm so used to it by now that the drill is always the same. Get some rest, eat some good food. Sometimes when I'm tired and I haven't eaten for 6 hours or so, if I eat a meal, it brings my positive mood back. Usually I just try to sleep for about 9 hours, which is enough to wake up the next day feeling pretty good. When they start to feel bad and negative, a lot of people don't have this place inside nor know it exists, so they try for imitations, things like food, booze, sex, self-mutilation, hair color, gambling, etc. But you gotta feel your pain for at least a minute, then purge it, go into the harbor of your soul for rest, then move on back towards the power in your soul. If you don't let yourself know your true soul and instead try to mask it over with the illusions and stuff of the world, you'll never find self-awareness and an ability to live a full, free life. If you internalize all the negativity and ugliness you feel by wallowing in your thoughts of hate, evil, violence and misery, it stays in there, eats away at you and makes you feel weak, worn out and powerless. But if you release it by positive good actions, you get powerful and feel good. It's like Rudyard Kipling said in his great poem, "If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run." All success in dealing with life is to run away from the negative towards the positive as quickly as possible via inspired action. This statement is better than all the psychobabble in the world. You don't have to deal with negative things like the psychobabblists say in order to resolve them. I let them roll off my back, then they're gone. I have no desire to psychoanalyze anything. It's all straight and out in the open with me. I have a problem, I immediately think it through, reach a conclusion, then act on it. It's not about what the psychobabblists say about probing your past for all this so-called psychoanalytical crap. It's about right now, this minute, as the only thing that matters towards creating the rest of your life. If you're a self-destructive person who turns to an excess or addiction when adversity hits, you simply have to change your negative behaviors for positive ones. It's very simple. When you're doing what you feel you were born for and feel strong and free, you've got your identity. But when you're not doing much beyond working a dull job, floating around, watching TV, eating good food, drinking too much, wallowing in self-pity, hanging around with loser friends, at some deep level you feel like you're cheating yourself and ultimately feel miserable. I must do what I know deep down that I'm capable of, otherwise I feel like I'm betraying myself. Yet I look around and see indifference to life all around me, as well as oodles of brainwashed people detached from their true souls, but I can't let it influence who I am. I have to be who I was meant to be in order to feel like I'm doing justice to my life. It's always you reaping more of what you sow within yourself. If you get into a junk food, TV habit, you get into that rut, and the longer you stay there, the tougher it is to break out of it. It's tough to get up after a period of lethargy to get back into it, but that's the test of all real winners. If you're a true human being, you have no choice in the matter. You know who you are and what you have to do. Consider a serious injury or illness. After them, many people give up and feel sorry for themselves. This would be heresy to the religion of free spiritism. You get up in the morning and give it your damnest in whatever it is you do that inspires you, and that's it. There is no compromise, no excuses. If you don't meet the standard of the enlightened free spirit, to do what you know you're capable of, to release the untapped natural inspired energy that lives inside of you. You're just one of the generic people out there with their cruise comfort generic lives. True freedom is really not much freedom once you find your soul, because you have to do what you feel inside. You have to follow your intuitive standard, the spirit within. The alternative is called self-loathing, self-betrayal, suicide by nothingness, letting yourself go to the point where you're meaningless to you and everybody around you. The empty feeling 3. And from the discontent of man, the world's best progress springs. Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Emptiness can start when I lose my spark due to simple fatigue or a relatively minor problem than if I sit around and brood or just soak up a couch potato lifestyle doing nothing in particular. I feel myself starting to lose myself and go further into mundanity and blandness, but even still, all this is minor because with a bit of plodding effort, I can easily get my inspiration, groove, and soul back because I stay quite close to it all the time anyway, never letting myself stray too far because it's the game of my life. One time, I lost myself quite extensively due to an injury, so I know that many people are detached from their real selves like this all the time, often without even realizing it, which is a very miserable feeling, which is why I'm focused on my connection to my inspired self. I learned from my moment of weakness, just like you too should use an experience that made you feel helpless to grow from and find your true strength. I came to the realization that it's all about me and my inner standard. I know it's right and good. I live it out. I don't care what the rest of the world says except to earn enough money to keep a roof over my head and follow what I intuitively feel within. I'm beyond every ideology, every talking head, every formal institution on the planet. My God is my soul. My emotions or sense of well-being will never be swayed by anybody or any ideology out there ever. I remember when I was injured and on my ass from a shattered hip, after about the 11th day, I actually had a dream of me as a vibrant athlete. My subconscious mind was telling me that's who I am, work on it now, so I started doing what I could with my upper body rather than just being laid out all day long. Extreme loss of self can happen when you're suddenly stripped of something that changes your life drastically, like divorce, the death of a spouse, car accident, injury, house burns down, disease, loss of a good job, rejection by the world, stock market crash, etc. I've been through a loss of self once when I was injured pretty bad, then several other things happened all at the same time to leave me shell-shocked. It was like my comfort level was pulled out from underneath me. I had no real focus of who I was as an individual because I had been going along, working a job I didn't really care for but was financially stable, so I didn't care about anything until I had nothing to live for and had to find myself. I won't get into it here, my own personal life is irrelevant to the discussion. Suffice it to say that most people live comfortable dull lives going along with the system until some manner of a desperate situation forces them to get real about their lives for the first time ever. Life is too easy for most of us to bother trying too hard to live by our souls, or it's more basic, the struggle being to earn enough money to live a comfortable life, and that's it. Pop culture, junk food, and the traditional formal schooling work ethic is so much easier than trying to discover the essence that is you and living by it. If you're a real human being, you will have lived through at least one loss of self event in your life. My particular situation forced me to abandon the traditional version of the American dream because I realized that following it meant nothing to me beyond the money and the fake status I got through it as a respectable system clone. I got off the roller coaster of the system and stopped long enough to find my real self, to figure my life out, then live it as powerfully and inspired as possible every day. Regardless of money, this journey, What Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey, is the most important journey of life for every real human being. Find out who you really are through self-contemplation, life experience and inspired action, then develop a spiritual base and live it out. It's very important to live through one moment of emptiness and hopelessness in your life to feel the real you, to learn wisdom gained through this experience. People often make their greatest discoveries when they're at their weakest and most vulnerable. Inspiration comes from desperation because you're backed into a corner and you've got no way out but to fight or fold. Necessity is the mother of invention. Most of us have no need to find our souls because we're doing all right with the superficial externals, going along with the system, working a job which gives us enough money to keep us pacified, but this is not really the true essence of life as it should be lived. I know that there are millions of lost people out there because I was like this once. I know the feeling and the headspace. I look at the people when I go to the supermarket and I know I ain't seeing stellar examples of human nobility there, so this is my effort to light the path to point anyone in the right direction should they care to have the guts to live their own lives away from indoctrination. At one time, as a lost, naive soul, I never cared about money, the job market, real estate, business, medical issues, or anything like that because I lived a charmed life in a fantasy world that's not the real world. But when I slowed down enough, I realized that people in the real world have very real problems and life is a daily struggle on many fronts for a lot of them. The real world is made up of iron, coke, chromium, steel, not the images you see on TV where everybody's smiling and having a good old frivolous time. I was partially taken in by this delusion, going along in college, which is a fantasy land with no scope of the hard, cold reality of life. I strongly believe that they should throw out some of the academic curriculum in high school and teach students the relevant things in life. Too many people are clued out then when cold hard reality hits or they need information about something real, they're lost and end up making bad choices based on incomplete information or spending too much money. If you have a broken dream, chances are it's a dream from the outside world. Find the real you, your true soul. It doesn't matter what anyone out there says. What really matters is what you want to do away from the crap of the world, but some people are so brainwashed they can't think in these terms, themselves as individuals away from everything on the planet. True artists don't give a damn about what anyone else says. They do what they do because they know from a place deep within themselves that it's good and right and don't particularly care about all the little minds around them. Don't give up and die, but don't take it all so hard. Remember Kipling's poem, "If you can dream and not make dreams your master." Dreams are not everything in life. You have to be stable with or without them. If you realize you're spinning your wheels and your dream breaks, move on and do something else, but remember that dreams fade in comparison to true peace of mind and knowledge of the self. To me, there's no big dream I have to get to. I wake up every day and my life is right then, that day. If I feel like I've gone for a good run of living about 12 hours later, that's the best I can ever hope for, one day at a time. If you have enough money for a small house in a low-tax district, that's all you really need to be free. Try UnitedCountry.com for country real estate. If you can accept yourself without the need of achieving any dream, you'll be getting along a lot better than the many people who chase the illusory dreams the world dangles in front of them. How many people get depressed because they don't achieve the big dreams they set for themselves? Don't bank too heavily on any dream. Just play it cool and know that you'll do just fine no matter what happens. Competition is another great imposter of the system. In the media, I constantly hear people being interviewed say something like, "I want to win" or "I like to compete." To me, this reveals an egotistical, elitist character. You want to proclaim that you're temporarily superior to someone else by beating them at something, be it status, sport, or business. Who cares if somebody beats somebody at something today? Tomorrow the other side will win, but so what? I live in my head. My only competition is myself, my inner standard. I don't have an ego need to show others I'm superior to them, nor do I want to participate in the charade that's supposedly the sign of winners according to classical capitalist ideology. I live to release my natural energy. If playing a game like hockey, I could care less if I win or lose. All I want is to blow off that energy and at the end of the game, feel like that was a great expenditure of energy. It felt good. It made me feel good now. I strive for peace within myself and cooperation with others, not to compete with them because society tells me winners are strong competitors. Only unenlightened people tie up their efforts into competing with others. Regardless of what you do today, you still have to get out of bed every morning and live with yourself. Don't let any dream screw you up so bad that you get depressed if you don't get there, and if you do, you might just find it empty when all is said and done. Dreams should play second fiddle to your appreciation of life right now at this moment because it's all you got. Life really is the battle of inspired action from the soul versus loss of self. If you're ever tested with a bout of emptiness, you'll see the real you. You'll either fold or find your true purpose. I'm warning you, no matter how secure you feel, make a plan B and C right now in case plan A fails, and above all, save your money. Don't spend it foolishly because unless you're a multimillionaire, there will come a point where you'll really need it. The one thing I'm almost certain of for just about everyone on the planet is that you will have a tragedy in your life where you'll find yourself feeling cold and hopeless. It could be money, medical, death, or relationship. You'll be at a crossroads. Just remember that rejuvenation comes slowly over time, but you must take action for it to happen. Once you've been through tragedy once, it gets easier because you're always learning about how to deal with it. It's like this again. I know the drill. I've been here before. No matter what happens, you just gotta keep moving on no matter what. Some old guys have told me incredible stories of tragedy, but they're still kicking. This is what makes them champions of life. They're still there at the ages of 65 plus in the gym lifting weights, trying to be inspired about their lives, while most 65-year-olds are half dead, parked in front of the TV, in a medical facility, or 6 feet under. The empty feeling. 4. The freest person in the world is one with an open heart, a broken spirit, and a new direction in which to travel. Gordon MacDonald. Deep feelings of emptiness which bring you close to extreme loss of self can be deadly because they're so spiraling. Once you sit around for a bit and start to deteriorate, it can grow in your mind so you feel numb and just continue sitting there with all the negativity welling up inside. It's basically you sitting around feeling sorry for yourself, stuck in a rut. I don't believe in all that wounded, inner child, past baggage crap and long periods of therapy to heal yourself. You are who you are right now. The past means absolutely nothing. All that matters is for you to make peace with yourself such that you reach in, find your true soul, and at least make a semblance of an effort to try to feel inspired as you plod through some action to try to get some spark back. Of course, it'll be difficult if you're extremely lost, but the only solution to all the emptiness in the world is constant, inspired action towards something to better your life somehow, to make you feel like you're in positive motion. If you do it for a while, you get some mastery back, and this fuels you for a bit so that you eventually find your way back to your inspired self with some self-respect and self-mastery, but you have to keep at it. Even when you stumble, get back on it. This is the story of life for real winners. I have calluses on my soul from all the ruts I've lived through because I'm a guy born without a silver spoon in my mouth who had to make my own way through in this ugly, cruel world, and know only too well how nobody gives a damn about me and how the business machinery of the world could care less about my visions as a delusional artist, as all artists are. But you reach a point where you laugh. This is true freedom, when you know within yourself that you're right, you're pursuing the right course of action for you, and it doesn't matter what anybody says, either good or bad. That's why people think I'm arrogant. I don't think I am. I just know I'm right, and I don't care what anybody else says. They even have a term for people with superiority complexes who think highly of themselves. It's called narcissistic personality disorder. Isn't it crazy that the psychobabble industry wants to tame people who think highly of themselves by saying there's something wrong with them, they're too self-centered, we have to fix them so that they're meek and impressionable like everybody else who are kinda mundane with no strong convictions in life. What a method to try to keep people down. Money is the bottom line, and if you don't have it, you can get depressed, painting a worst-case scenario, worrying if you'll end up homeless and desperate. But if you can find a way to keep a basic minimal roof over your head, the next step to relieve your emptiness is to find your inner spark and hold onto it for dear life, because that's all you ever really got anyway. Mansions, money, and everything else are useless if you're a deadhead with no sense of inner spark. By the same token, you don't need all that stuff to live a great life, just the basics for economic security. Life is just time to live well, not destroy yourself for stupid careers which yield money for you to waste on useless things you really feel nothing for in order to feel like you're successful. If you find your soul and get good at it, find a way to make some cash at it and find someone to share it with. That's as simple and good as it gets. I personally don't have to cleanse myself much because every day is a clean slate to me regardless of what I did yesterday, but many people get bogged down with all the illusions, crap, and stress of life, which is why they should metaphorically cleanse themselves, to wipe the slate of your life clean and go on to a new beginning, like the line in a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song about changes, saying at one time you thought you had it all figured out, but looking back on it now, you're running hyperspace circles around that headspace back then. I pretty well live every day knowing it's a new, clean slate, and the challenge to honor myself never ends. Even the happiest, most vital among us get tired and cynical sometimes because life is so solitary that you sometimes find yourself in your own thoughts without sharing them with anybody, even if you're loved by a soulmate and a family. The design of the human organism is solitary. We all have to live our own lives, and most of us are too proud and vain to reveal our innermost weak and soppy feelings to others anyway, so we're all a bunch of ships passing in the night. You gotta accept this and go with it. Whenever I get really tired, I thank my lucky stars for my toes and my fingers, like the line out of some Simon and Garfunkel song. One night of rest should be enough to shake off any negative event from the previous day. I get up and move. That's my only sure thing. Move or stay in bed. Stay in the house or get out to go somewhere. That's the battle right there. The battle of life, inspiration vs. Mundanity 1. He who has a why to live can bear anyhow. Nietzsche. Caring for the soul means making all of life sacred and then appreciating the sacredness everywhere. Thomas More. Spiritually alive or deadhead. Inspiration or mundanity? Original vitality or generic clone? Who are you when you look at yourself in the mirror? Inspiration is control, mundanity is loss of control. The game of life is to keep staying inspired no matter what. Life is a fantasy in your mind. In Eugene O'Neill's play The Iceman Cometh, the setting is the local bar where O'Neill goes through a dozen characters, each with some illusion, pipe dream, or delusion about their lives, covering all areas like wealth, status, politics, glamour, picture-perfect family, romance, delusions of grandeur, business success, religion, status, etc. The character used to help strip everybody down of their illusions is Theodore Hickey, the fast-talking salesman who comes in and confronts everybody about their pipe dreams and delusions, but the irony is that he's a madman who killed his wife convinced that he did it because he loved her but really hated her, so the redemption at the end was that he's a madman, therefore everything he says is null and void. This means they can all go back to their individual dreams and fantasies, so there is a collective sigh of relief as everything goes back to normal. The point is that we all need illusions to go on and survive. This is my take on life, kinda like some quote I read by Sir Francis Bacon that goes something like, "Everybody lives in a world of their own creation known to none but them." This is why I think I'm free. I know that my life is a fantasy in my mind just like everybody else's lives are a fantasy in their minds, so I have no inhibitions about who I am and express it freely, at least to myself, and I'm not swayed by all the facades people put on, because I know that underneath, everyone has some deficiency or some dream about their lives that they're thinking about, but this is cool. This is who we are. This is the human condition. Eugene O'Neill exposed it for his generation. I'm re-exposing it for our generation. We're all walking around with our facades, but underneath them we're all living in our individual fantasy worlds. This is why people don't intimidate me. I don't care what status or alleged position of power you have out in the world, I know that underneath, if you're a man, you're first of all living in the same carnal, lusty state of mind I'm living in, and secondly, there's a fantasy world in your mind away from everything you're about in the so-called real world with other people, a utopia, a private paradise. Chances are it will never come to pass because of lots of reasons. You can't bend people to your will, it will probably cost lots of money, and it's just plain hard work to try to live an idealistic life where everything is perfect. I always used to feel like a strong, vital guy. I still do in a limited way, but I lose 1% of testosterone a year, which means I'll never go back to the glory days of youth, but I still have the fantasy and the vision of me as a strong, young guy, and I pursue it in my aging body. The point is that I got the fantasy and the image, and I pursue it in real life to some extent. This is what Eugene Onal's point was. We all need a vision of fantasy, paradise, or a better life to sustain our souls, because if we lose this and accept reality for what it is, many of us may get depressed because of the circumstances we see ourselves in. You have to create your life every day. Part of it is creating a fantasy. Part of it is releasing the natural energy in your soul with inspired action to feel like you're in motion with your life to this imaginary utopia in your mind, and that's the way it goes. You create this feeling of possibility within yourself every day, and that's as good as it can get, because there is no fixed place you get to in life where all is perfect. I can live in perfect surroundings such as a nice house with a soulmate or several, but every single morning when I wake up I know that if I don't go off and release a bunch of physical energy right off the bat, I will feel as though I'm wasting the day and betraying myself, so I have to create this every day and intersperse it with the fantasies in my mind. That's about as good as it gets. There's no place over the rainbow where everything will be perfect every day simply because people disagree, get into fights, and everybody's body breaks down sooner or later. If you can make your fantasies come to pass in a real way to a limited extent, you're ahead of the game. But if you can keep cool regardless of what happens outside of yourself and keep that fantasy in your head romantic and inspired no matter what, then you'll get through with your youthful spark intact. Everybody loses their youthful spark of inspiration at some point in life. The trick is to keep getting it back. Most people keep the fires of youth flickering throughout their 20s, but by 30, complacency rears its ugly head, and by 35 just about everybody is in a rut, slowly losing themselves until their shells of whatever youthful vigor they once had, with an expanding midriff, receding hairline, a wrinkling face, and a bad attitude, that their best days have passed them by. Most people accept this state of affairs as life as lived. This becomes a perpetual state of generic blandness. I watched an acquaintance of mine go from inspired, young guy to Olympic champion to paunchy 39-year-old guy who looks like any other slightly used up, overweight, middle-aged guy with a fat face. This was about 10 years ago, so I'm sure he's worse off now. He didn't keep his spark. So what that he won a hunk of metal on some day in his distant past? All that matters is right now. It doesn't matter that the former alpha male lion was once the greatest stud around. Now that he's crippled and old, everybody's snapping at him, trying to kill him, the other males, baboons, dogs, the bugs and the vultures, but worst of all, he's laying down, waiting to die, no fight left in him anymore. You must be ever vigilant as to yourself, otherwise you die a spiritual death at a very young age, then mundanity and physical deterioration follow soon after. A friend of mine started a cell phone business, is now wealthy, yet all he does is work, open 7 days a week with 3 kids. He can't stop to enjoy his life because he feels an obsessive need to control his invention, the business. Truly enlightened people create something, then move on to the next project, getting the most out of their whims and inspiration. Free spirits keep the fires of their souls burning brightly in their efforts to keep their souls pure, strong, young, enlightened, happy and inspired all the time. I heard a quote once on that Idea City Seminars thing on City TV. The guy said, we spend all of our lives working our butts off trying to make things easier for ourselves, but we fail to realize that it's inspired exertion that gives us our great highs in life, doing what we love to do as opposed to lounging on a beach somewhere, which would kill most people like me because it's so dull. It's the same with Søren Kierkegaard. He said, "If I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power but for the passionate sense of potential, for the eye which, ever young and ardent, sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints, possibility never. I gotta get those feelings of inspiration like you feel your life coming alive, you're doing something on the frontier of your experience of the human condition. Nothing in the world beats your obligation to yourself to stay inspired, not the greatest achievement, the greatest defeat, marriage, a death in the family, even a new baby. If you have to sacrifice your freedom to chase inspiration in order to support a baby, think twice. Babies inspire some people, mostly their mothers, but not all of them. A lot of fathers and mothers don't feel this paternalistic/maternalistic need to raise kids. Ultimately, it's just you every single day either saying to yourself I gotta ride my inspired self or simply being mundane. There's no halfway. You're either aware of it, on it, or simply floating through life with no inner sense of your true life force. There's a big difference between taking care of your soul and going along with the forces of capitalism, namely work a job, eat processed foods, watch TV, and pretend that professional sports is exciting or that if you color your hair, you'll feel glamorous because, as they say, you're worth it. The only battle is between staying active and inspired or merely sitting around doing nothing in particular, soaking up the lifestyle presented to you by the system. This is the true war of life for all enlightened entities, to go beyond the bare minimums of working a job and paying bills to actively strive to analyze your life and do something inspired with it day after day after day. For the enlightened free spirit, the inspired power of the soul is king, but he's aware enough to know he lives in a mundane, somber world full of negative things, plus he has other concerns like money, problems, fatigue, and occasional discouragement, which all dampen the soul and kill the inspiration. So the best that anyone can do is to live out hundreds of inspiration mundane cycles one after the other, feeling inspired and on fire for a while, then either getting lazy or distracted, thus sinking into a couch potato pit for a bit, feel yourself deteriorating, decide to get back on it, make a mad dash to get your inspired self back, ride the self-mastered, transcendent groove for a while, then lose it again. And this is generally the way life is lived for most creative, bohemian types: high inspiration followed by a period of rest or hedonism, then high inspiration again followed by another diversion. They can't feel good unless they feel close to their souls via the release of inspired energy. Absolutely nothing on the planet can make such a person happy, not even love and sex, or even if they win the lottery. It would feel nice for a day or two, but then it would be back to the battle of the soul regardless of the size of the bank account. I go into ruts of laziness where I sit around and do my carnal pursuits for 2 or 3 days, but these periods serve the purpose of incubation, hibernation, and higher enlightenment to me, which I discuss elsewhere. However, my point is that now that I understand my life as lived on the soul scale, it's always there on my mind. I never let myself stray too far. Most people sink further into the ruts they create for themselves by the law that says you reap more of what you sow. So if you work a dull job, it saps your inspiration for life. Then because you feel drab, you try to bring yourself up when you get your paycheck by buying frivolous things, eating junk food, going to a movie, getting drunk, etc. But none of these things are soulful pursuits, so you end up going down further until you're basically another generic clone living the treadmill of life as presented by the system: work, spend, eat, watch TV, then do it all over again. I always have the sense to snap out of my ruts and get my inspired self back, which is the true battle of life, because it's impossible for the human organism to proceed in an orderly straight line fashion towards your goals, dreams, and visions, whatever they may be, as all those one-dimensional self-help books preach. It's all about endless cycles of inspiration followed by mundanity, diversions, life problems, or just rest and relaxation. Downtimes and ruts are good because they give you a chance to rest, recharge, and reflect on your life and help you incubate into higher insights which you can use to fuel you again when you get back into your inspired mode. This is the story of an enlightened life, trying to stay inspired, getting sidetracked by either problems, distraction, or fatigue, but always getting back on it. Most people generally lose that inner spark by middle age because it's so much easier just to earn a living and live comfortably, but for me to lose myself would be a fate worse than death, which is why I'm stuck on inspiration until the day I die. The Battle of Life, Inspiration vs. Mundanity 2. The only solution to all the misery and pain in the world is constant inspired action from the soul for whatever it is that you believe in and love to do. In all of human mythology of all different cultures, the hero is always cut to pieces by life's struggles, but in the end, he rises from the ashes, slays all his dragons and conquers all adversity. You have to visualize yourself as this phoenix rising from the ashes. Life's adversities are the extent to which you let the problems of life separate you from your natural soul. Whenever you're down and out, you have only two choices: to take inspired action or stay down. In your life, you'll go through plenty of adversity and problems and want the world to go away many times, but the only solution to all of it is to ride out the storm. Try to stay as close to your soul as possible, then when the time is right, take action to make it strong again. No matter what happens to you, no matter how bad it gets, in order to win, you have only one choice: have your little cry, then get your soul back via what comes through your inspired efforts. If any negativity comes your way, deal quickly, then move on. Granted, we all get hurt. The world is a cesspool if you let it be, but the only feasible solution is to quickly make peace with whatever's ailing you, let it roll off your back, then run to inspired action towards something positive to put some distance away from the negative events such that they're drowned out by the effort of trying to live well. It's the only way. A call-used soul can still be beautiful and strong. The outer core may be a bit worn, but the inner core can still be as pure and soft as a baby's butt if you let it. Most problems are trivial. They can discourage you and make you sit around too much, thus losing yourself even more, and it's a bitch to get back on it. Everybody experiences the same things when they sit around too much. You feel yourself slipping away as you sink further into the pit, then paint a worst-case scenario of yourself as a desperate, pathetic old person where you can see very clearly what the real challenge in life is all about. Laziness breeds more laziness. This is why it's so easy to fall into a rut, because it grows on you so quickly and you can rationalize it all away with the comfy, feel-good characters on TV. TV can be a hypnotic soul destroyer if you let it. There's everything there. If you're collecting a steady check or somebody's footing your bills, it could be so easy to become a TV addict and live for it, as many multi-millions do all the time, and it never ends. 24 hours a day there's something on, and with all the reruns from the past, you could spend the rest of your life watching old movies and probably never see them all because there are so many, not to mention all the TV shows and old documentary footage. Some people watch TV all the time and only leave their homes once a week to go to the supermarket. I've known people like this, and they were miserable but didn't realize it was all because they sat on their butts all the time. A definition of rut is loss of self or loss of the connection to the soul. The bottom line is that you have to answer to yourself, and this is based on how you feel at any moment in time. It can be very difficult to break out of a rut, but you have to make the move to start and keep on with it a little bit every day. The toughest part is always the first 4 days of honest effort in your soulful pursuits. After that, you've got some strength, confidence, and discipline back, so if you keep at it, you'll soon get your groove back, and soon after that resume your rightful place as the master of your life all over again. With my physical pursuits, if I lay off for several days, those first few days of training are hell, but I plod through until about the 5th day or so, when my body heals and resumes some of its former power, almost like a breakthrough. I've seen hundreds of people start off with vim and vigor only to fade after a few days, then quit. It happens with work, goals, aspirations to lose weight, the desire to exercise, the desire to be a better husband and father, etc. It happens every year with New Year's resolutions. I see a few fat guys at the gym for about a week, then I don't see them anymore. Strength breeds more strength. When you start to feel it, you know it as long as you keep at it bit by bit, day by day, and it builds up exponentially until you hit your groove, then ride it for a while. Life is just like an athlete training for a race, except that it's a way of life to keep the connection with the soul. He starts slow, works up to a peak, reaches it for a bit, then backs off to rest, then does it all over again, and it never ends. The cycles of life. All things happen in their own good time in the ebb and flow of life. In every winter's heart lies a quivering spring. And behind the veil of each night waits a smiling dawn. Khalil Gibran. Everybody's moody, they go up and down like the wind depending on how they perceive they're being treated by others, how much they perceive they're loved, how much money they got, how cool they think they are, how many compliments they get, how strong and inspired they feel, and a myriad of other things. They say Buddhists and religious types are calm all the time, but I've seen my share of angry religious and Buddhist types. I accept people for their moodiness because that's what I expect anyway, being around for as long as I have to see everybody fall apart to some extent when stress hits, so I just watch them all, play along, and try to stay as calm as I can regardless of what's going on around me, either good or bad. Seasons are nature's way of giving us cycles to live by. Day and night are nature's way of giving us cycles to regulate ourselves. You're a slave to your emotions. What you feel right now may change by tonight or tomorrow or next week. You can feel bad now and by next week, everything'll be great, or you could feel great now and all of a sudden one piece of bad news could destroy you for a week or two. The secret in life is to enjoy your emotions when they're good and get rational when you start feeling bad. We all go up and down like yo-yos based on the little things that happen to us in the course of the day. We're up, we're down, we're medium, and we just keep going. That's as good as it gets. It's rarely always straight up. You can't keep going forward towards your dreams and goals with positive, powerful momentum all the time, as the phony conventional self-help psychobablists try to fool you into thinking they have the secrets to. Although I try to live without delusions, it's even tougher to live as a rational human being, not letting your emotions interfere with your state of mind or the decisions you must make. Although I try to live for the rational thought process and reflectional review, I have nevertheless come to the realization that I, as are all of us, am a mishmash gob of emotion. You can't get away from it. It's built into us as human beings. We're ruled by our emotions. You have to accept it and minimize its effects on you. Life is all about moods and cycles, minute by minute, day by day. Moods come down to two things to me: emotions and energy level. I can control my emotions by analyzing everything I come across that affects me, dealing with it rationally, then forgetting about the negative as quickly as possible and moving on. When I feel good, I try to hold onto it for as long as I can by relishing in that positive, peaceful, happy mood. Energy level is both a physical and spiritual thing. It's good to work hard at something, but only go so far and not to the point of fatigue and burnout when negative thoughts enter. Good nutrition and rest balanced with just the right amount of physical, mental, and soulful exertion helps keep moods up. Beyond that, it's the sheer power of the mind, body, and soul, to simply make an active decision to try to stay inspired all the time. It's not easy. The dark moods will get you when something bad happens or you feel tired. In such cases, it's best not to fight it. Go home, have your rest, eat good food, enter the harbor for your soul. Then in a day or so you'll feel a lot better, provided you don't lay around for too long. One night of good sleep will kill the darkest mood. There are positive things you can do to enhance moods. Physiologically speaking, the things you do and the thoughts you think cause chemical reactions which release endorphins in the brain, which cause positive feelings like physical activity, creative activities, loving actions with people or pets, helping somebody, talking to a friend, and relaxation through music, nature, and pets. When you feel tired, your nervous system, the engine that runs your mind, body, and soul, is weak. It needs rest, good thoughts, and good food to get your center and energy back. That's how simple life is. I've learned to temper my inner battles to live at a calm level, such that my highest priority is to live simply all the minutes of the day, cherishing the moments as they pass as best as I can, while following a temperate, smooth spiritual type of flow towards the aesthetic visions which come out of the battle for the sanctity of my soul. My concept of balance is not a flat line of moderation all the time. It's regular periods of high-intensity activity in those things I love to do counteracted with periods of deep restfulness. I expend myself fully, rest well, then do it all over again. Balance doesn't mean mundane blandness. Just as Socrates said a long time ago, success is excess. If you have a spiritual vision and believe in it fully, the only way to be is intense to the point of excess, but then have the sense to knock it off and get equitable periods of rest when you get tired or bored of the all work no play syndrome. It's all about moods both on a daily basis and a long-term basis. My rule is simple: for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If you work hard or have a very intense, exciting day, the next day, you'll crash. I'm not talking depression here, I'm just talking fatigue and sluggishness. It works for different time periods too. If I bust my butt on something for 2 weeks straight, I always end up crashing for at least 4 days. By crashing, I mean nothingness. I'm not necessarily depressed, but I'm recharging my batteries. I have no desire to do anything until I get tired of sitting around and take off like a storm again. Reward yourself and rest after you work hard. It's part of your rhythm. Don't work hard then play hard. This might be a cool capitalist saying, but it doesn't work. You'll just crash and burn. Make your work your play, then take time for total rest to do nothing in particular. If you've ever been an athlete training for something, you know that you can't go hard all the time. You have to ease into it, work up to a plateau, then ride it for about a week or so until you reach your highest peak, then lose it like the air going out of a tire. Because you're human, you have to live by the cycles of exertion/relaxation. It's the same with life, cycles repeating themselves over and over again. The day is a mishmash of cycles. I read a study once where a bunch of people had to rate themselves how they felt on a scale of 1 to 10 every 15 minutes. The results showed that people fluctuate either way all the time in mood and energy level as the day wears on. The most secure people are people who don't fluctuate much because they're too strong to let anything get to them either way. They just deal with whatever comes their way and move on. As for the energy level, there are times when I'm literally burnt out. I lay down and don't move for an hour or so, then I'm revitalized. There's a lot to be said for the power nap, or whatever you want to call it. A bit of sleep does the trick for me whenever I feel drained. Some companies are even installing small cubicle-like nap rooms for their employees. Their reasoning is that the most productive worker is the one who gets enough sleep, and if that means a nap at lunch hour, it's better than not having it. If you look at the big picture of your life, you won't see a straight arrow going straight up. What you'll probably see is an arrow made up of several circles going in an upper direction. I've tried to stay strong and focus on my creative visions, but I always found that you can only work so much, then you reach a point where you don't want to do anything, or you'll have setbacks, fall off your horse, have a pity party for one, then get back on after a while. Be aware of the cycles in your life and accept them. The solution for me is simply total awareness of all my emotions all the time. I try to stay stable and not let my emotions get the better of me, telling myself to stay cool. Whatever happens is just a thing, don't let anything get to me, just keep going. I always try to analyze my life from a rational point of view regardless of how much the emotions come into play in it. Chapter 2. Why people feel generic to suicidal. Betray your archetypes and you become a generic dud. You can only get self-respect and a sense of well-being by earning it every day, one day at a time. This is why anything you have done more than 2 days ago can't help you in the way you feel now. Having more money than what you need for basic comfort cannot make you feel great and euphoric right now. You can build on self-respect and wellness by staying close to your archetypes, by releasing energy to manifest them or keep them strong all the time. If you see yourself as a wizardless sorcerer archetype and do magic shows all the time, you're there because you're always doing it. But if you see yourself as a wizard and don't do anything to honor it day after day, so what? You got nothing to brag about. You're not a master at your chosen archetype. You're just another dud dreamer with bug delusions with no hard work to back it up. Self-contempt, generic mundanity and misery come from betraying one's true nature by not releasing the natural potential energy you were born with. This is the big tragedy in modern, Western society that almost nobody seems to talk about or be aware of. Most of us will go along with the brainwash of the world system rather than exploring our own lives freely to discover who we really are and then doing what we really want to do. If you take on artificial values from your society at the expense of following your true nature that exists way down deep in your subconscious mind/soul, at some point in time, you will go down in the flames of existential emptiness because, in a moment of clarity when your self-censoring defenses go down as they sometimes do, you will see or feel the archetypes that were imprinted on your soul/subconscious mind when you were created. If you betray these archetypes, blueprints for your life, you'll know. It's a bad feeling when you realize you didn't honor the genetic mystical divine seed you were endowed with. Many people live unfulfilled lives behind their facades of pop culture coolness, societal status, political correctness, and capitalist success for precisely this reason. I personally know that most of us fancy ourselves as good-looking, strong, tight, noble people doing something worthy with our lives, masters of our fates, artists at our chosen professions, but in the cold, hard reality of daylight we're a bunch of paunchy, pasty-faced, generic duds. Just remember you created your own life. There is no law etched in stone that says you have to take on a so-called respectable career, particularly if you intuitively feel it will destroy what is good and strong in your soul, but millions do. You weren't born to fill yourself up with capitalist ambition, pop culture entertainment and the pursuit of material excess at the expense of your natural spirit. You were born to do something tough, worthy, challenging, inspiring, original, fun, good and transcendent. From that store of pure, free energy you should feel flowing through your veins. Every day I release a good load of my natural energy to make me feel like I just hit another grand slam in the experience of my life. I try to maximize my ride of the human condition. It's easy. Take all the lusty, luscious, noble, and inspired thoughts and images that exist in your soul/subconscious mind, including your ID, and try to make them come to pass in real life. The free spirit lifestyle is the daily quest for the feeling of aesthetic spiritual fulfillment. Just release that natural energy. Every time I do a good workout I'm there, then I ride the release of my physical energy for a while and afterwards purge some creative intellectual energy until I'm satisfied that I pleased the gods by honoring who they created me to be before I move on and relish in the sensual hedonistic and loving realms to finish off the day. The hook of free spiritism is that you can't build up a store of it and save it like you can save money. You can build a strong base, but it will topple if it's not exercised every day. It's like love. You have to do it all the time to get to that free, strong, aesthetic, vital sensibility and stay close to it. The New Agers like to say that you have value just because you exist, kinda like you are beautiful, a god or goddess within yourself, the beloved, you're special and have unconditional love from your God, but this is not true. You might have a baseline of self-love within yourself and feel your God loves you no matter what, but you don't automatically love yourself and feel good about your life just because you exist and God loves you. If this was true, the fat load, waste product, pop culture indoctrinated, smelly, obnoxious couch potato would have the same quality of life and the same amount of self-respect as the most inspired, vital, active, sensual bohemian artist on the planet, but they are universes apart in their experience and enjoyment of the human condition. I have discovered how to feel anywhere from good to great almost all the time and have a high sense of self-respect simply by earning it every day. You have to release a good load of your natural, inherent, inspired energy day after day to honor the person your divine Holy Spirit created you to be. If you don't do this but still start off with a base of self-love, it can't sustain you. Self-love or self-esteem by themselves mean nothing because life is a constantly evolving or devolving affair where you only feel as good as what you did today. The battle to honor yourself never ends. This is why all that positive power crap you see in all the self-help books and tape programs never work, because they're just words that don't penetrate the engine that is your life and soul, which you have to fuel by taking out for good to great runs every day. You have to keep striving to be the person your God created you to be by creating your life through inspired action from the soul all the time. You have to tap into that natural store of inspiration that is you. If you don't, you start living in that same mundane pit that most middle to upper class people in modern, Western society live in, which is a life of generic comfort with good food, pop culture entertainment and lots of useless material things, but none of this stuff can do much for you because a qualitatively high standard of life only comes one way, by releasing the natural energy in your human spirit to a level that allows you to soar freely through the heavens for a while, and you have to do it all the time. The size of your bank account or house won't do it. They are things. They can't make you feel euphoric and great. Only a release of the energy in your spirit can. You have to do things that earn you a full, satisfying, aesthetic, glorious, noble ride of the human condition. If you don't release your natural, inherent energy every day, even if you release other energy such as working a job you don't really like or going to school and studying something that you're not really interested in, it won't help you reach a state of inspired satisfaction. Doing these things can't help you because they don't tap into the true native, spiritual aesthetic forces that you were endowed with. Unused natural energy poisons you. If you're not playing the game of your life to constantly release your natural, inspired energy to express what's in your soul, this energy sits inside of you unused and starts to build up to toxic levels. First, you start to feel mundane, like there's something missing in your life. You might be doing okay out in the world, making money, driving a nice car. You could be married with good kids, but if you have that ever-present gnawing sense of emptiness, like you're not exactly in your groove doing what you feel you were naturally meant to do with your life, it means you're not following your true nature. The further you go in this direction, the more your unused, natural, potential, inspired energy builds up inside of you. Some people resort to taking on addictions to deal with this gnawing sense of emptiness, not realizing why they feel empty all the time even if they are successful by the standards of the world. This is why you see a lot of these people that seem to have a lot of money and status out in the world still do silly, self-destructive things. They can't fill the void of emptiness they feel because they're following artificial values over their own natural values. Some people call it selling out or selling your soul. You always know within yourself when you're betraying your true nature. You can repress it for a while, but sooner or later, it always come out. If this store of unused natural energy within a person builds up to a certain level, it crosses the line from just a bland feeling of generic mundanity to a more desperate feeling of self-hate and self-loathing, which leads to depression. With depression comes a feeling of lethargy. The more inactive a person gets, the more unused natural potential inspired energy builds up inside of him or her, therefore the more he or she enters into that spiraling pit of despair. Everything comes down to doing what you were meant to do with your life or not. Your sense of well-being, self-worth, and self-respect or lack of these qualities all stem from the same thing, the extent to which you're honoring your essence as a human being, what you were created to do by constantly releasing natural energy to that end or not. Your level of happiness and fulfillment exist on this continuum that I call the soul scale, which I discuss elsewhere. There was a guy who was a big movie and TV star over 20 years ago. He was in movies, then he had a successful TV series. I'm sure he made a lot of money and had a lot of fun, but recently as I saw him walk out onto the stage for a TV talk show, I could immediately tell he was ashamed of the person he had become because he knew he betrayed himself. Gone was the dashing buck of youth with a healthy, vital spark about himself, to be replaced by a load of lard who looked like he ate a tub of ice cream every morning, then laid around all day watching TV, doing crossword puzzles, sucking on chocolates. All the money, past glory, and fame in the world can't give a person the two things that really matter: a sense of self-respect, a vital spark. You can't have true, pure love without them. If you can't respect yourself for the pure essence you are, you don't have enough love within yourself to pass on freely and purely because you sincerely want to, because you love your life so much. If you're not a vital person releasing that natural inspired spark to a point where you feel like you're in your groove and just hit another grand slam in your ride of the human condition, You can never be free enough to be a satisfied romantic, sensuous lover because you'll always be feeling self-conscious about your perceived deficiencies. You gotta have that inner feeling of oneness and let it radiate out through you freely with abandon because you know you're in your groove with your true nature. At that point, you can be a great romantic fool if you want because you're feeling it. Mark my words. Remember one line in this book, it's always about earning enough self-respect by releasing your vital spark to meet your inherent standard day by day. There are no halfways. You either got it and you know or you don't, and nothing in the world can get you there but honoring your right of the free spirit ideology. There are loads of people who have sold whatever is good, beautiful, original, natural, and inspired within themselves for an average career and the ability to buy creature comforts they don't need. Is it worth it? When I saw a bunch of people crying because their houses burnt down in a forest fire, I thought of the first rule of Buddhism: don't become attached to material things because your life is within you, who you are and what you do, not in what you own. All you really own is your body and soul and maybe 80 years to play on this planet, and that's it. You will never see me cry over lost material things because I'm a material minimalist. I don't own many material things and never will because it goes against the code of my life. Take what you need for basic comfort as opposed to luxurious comfort and leave the rest or give it away. I do not own enough stuff to cry about if I ever lose it. If we were truly kindly people, as virtually all of us like to think we are as individuals, there would be no poverty left in the world because we would share what we have to help our poor, homeless brothers and sisters of humanity, but we don't. We hoard our wealth and try to keep the poor, unkempt masses out. This is a big reason why we live in such a lost society of lost souls. Most people just don't get it or have been brainwashed so much by capitalist advertising that they think material possessions are directly proportional to level of happiness in life. They think happiness comes by amassing stuff from the mall and constantly renovating their homes with new cutesy, useless home decor garbage. What does that have to do with releasing the energy in your soul? It doesn't come close to matching the free, euphoric pursuit of one's life. Never forget that you were born naked with nothing, and whatever you acquire materially in this life you can't take with you when you die. If life is eternal, all you take is your eternal soul. Mine is pure and free, not clouded over by all the crap from the material world. Unused energy is the key to misery. We need to challenge ourselves through the release of natural inspired energy. If you're enlightened, every day you have to prove to yourself that you're a warrior for what you believe in, wanting to live a great life by releasing the spirit that lives inside of you with some manner of gusto and joy. Enlightened people know that you can only create happiness one day at a time. Release your natural energy on any given day, and that creates a good feeling within yourself that lasts at the most 24 hours. By the next day, you are already starting to build up a debt of unused, natural potential energy within yourself. The process of honoring yourself and creating the person your divine creators want you to be never ends. Just listen to your soul. Do what it tells you do. On those days when the soul feels weak, the mind and willpower should kick in. You know what you have to do to reach your standard in expending your natural life energy, so you do it anyway, even when you don't particularly want to, or at least I do. The trick is that after some motion, you get into the groove and can transform what started out as a mundane day into a day of exertion, freedom, soaring and happiness. If I had stayed in bed all those days I felt tired, I'd be a wimp by now, but after you release your first 20% of energy, you start feeling better until you're almost up there at your limits, or at least to a feeling of good exertion. Every athlete knows he doesn't start off full blast. Nor does an artist. They warm up, mess around, pace themselves, but when they're starting to feel the groove, they go hard doing what they were created to do, release that energy to some semblance of gusto and intensity. This is what separates the mass of generic people from the few enlightened ones playing their lives like they're playing a fiddle. If you use your natural life energy up pretty well every day in the aesthetic inspired sense, you feel anywhere from good to great. This release of energy frees you from the generic mundanity of the human condition for at least a little while day by day. I can't explain exactly why I feel good to great after I blow off a load of natural energy. A part of it is self-respect. I've done something worthy that was at least moderately tough, but it goes beyond that. It's the motion, the spiritual aesthetic expression. I just intuitively know that this is my lifeblood, this is what I do. I know I'm stronger, more youthful, more inspired and have more neural connections than virtually everybody my age, but I don't particularly care about what my peers are doing. It's none of my business. The game is for me to stay young and live for as long as I can with some quality to my life. I've figured it out. All I have to do is keep releasing my inspired aesthetic, hedonistic and loving energy all the time with some manner of intensity and joy. Some people know about this and live for it, but most people seem to be caught up in more mundane things. The average person looks at running, biking, swimming or lifting weights as a tedious chore they must do in the name of exercise to stay healthy. They don't see it as joy, a conquest, a challenge that you can never outdo because the next day you have to do it all over again. This is the freeing effect all true artists live for. They know that life as lived normally for most people, even if they claim to be happy, is at best dull for them, so they have to constantly purge this natural energy inside of them to a high, intense, worthy level to capture that feeling of oneness with the gods, the feeling of having honored the gods by honoring what their gods created them to be in their fullest expression of the human spirit. But the thing is, you can only do this one day at a time. This is the secret of life all enlightened free spirits have figured out and live by. They purge the contents of their souls virtually every day and in the process, get good feelings, regenerate themselves and constantly live in a zone of inspired, eternal youth. If you don't use up your natural, inherent energy, it sits inside of you unused. Your body is geared to expel three types of things: bodily wastes, sexual energy, natural life energy. The biology is the same for each of them. Release them and you feel good. Don't release them and they sit inside of you, poisoning you from within. It's not a joke. You know what it feels like to hold back a pee or a poop. You know how you feel when you're horny and don't release the sexual tension. Constantly release your energy and you feel strong, loose, and free. Don't release it and you end up looking and feeling like all those stressed out, pasty-faced, overweight, mundane-looking people you see everywhere you go. My theory on most human sadness, misery, and generic blandness in the West, where we're not constantly worrying about basic survival, is that it is not caused by loneliness or lack of love. It's caused by self-betrayal, but this seems to be below the radar of current psychobabble. Most people are not the people they really want to be, nor living the lives they really want to live to the best of their ability with what they got. They're not releasing their natural energy. They might be releasing energy to earn a living or go to school and buy their food at the mall, but this is not inspired or aesthetic energy, so it doesn't do anything for them in the spiritual inspired sense. They are capitalist, pop culture caricatures, living out some brainwashed image of what they think success and happiness are, but ultimately if they're not true to themselves, they will lose the game of life. It's not cool to admit to yourself you're weak, lazy, uninspired, brainwashed, identityless, without the courage to take the journey to discover who you are, then live by it. So we make up all kinds of excuses for our failings as human beings, but at the core, most of us know within our subconscious minds that we feel bad or generically dull because we betrayed ourselves. We did not have the guts, strength, and fortitude to become the individuals we really wanted to be. Denial is one of the human's greatest abilities, to live in the ignorant bliss of buying into the identity the system has set up for you rather than living by your own, then deluding yourself that you're a cool character doing fine and everything is peachy cream, even though deep down, you know you really wanted to live a more bohemian, free-spirited life, answering to the call of your soul rather than working that dull, one-dimensional job you're doing now. This is life in a capitalist, pop culture world. Work a dull job and live for an image of success, coolness, and happiness from out there rather than be true to yourself, which takes a conscious release of original, inspired energy every day. Self-betrayal is the root of most misery. We almost never call our inner disharmony or emptiness what it is: human weakness or self-betrayal. We call it stress, obesity, alcoholism, workaholism, depression, eating disorders, low self-esteem, dysmorphic body image disorder, chronic fatigue syndrome, low thyroid, or something else. We call addictions diseases, not manifestations of self-betrayal. You're trying to compensate for the empty feelings you have by getting an immediate shot of a transient good feeling that goes away quickly because it's not working the engine that is your soul, which is the only way to get true self-respect and a genuine feeling of fullness or accomplishment. Nobody should really get lonely much because your contract in life is to honor the gods who created you, which means to constantly release your inspired energy to do what you feel within that's worthy, productive, and has a freeing effect on you. Perhaps if you lived like this, you would be more prone to finding companions to relieve your loneliness. Self-betrayal is another term for your unused, natural energy. It's sitting inside of you as a toxin. It eats away at people by sending a message to their subconscious mind that they are betraying themselves by not using up that energy. The subconscious mind tells the person this through dreams, daydreams, idle thoughts and contemplation. The wise ones listen. Many people are so covered over by the brainwash of the world that they never clearly discover why they have a vague feeling of emptiness all the time. Over time, the enlightened people stay loose, free, strong, and feeling good because they're always releasing this natural energy, honoring who they are, staying close to their personal standard, honoring the archetypes they feel themselves as, which keeps them strong and free. The unenlightened people are not releasing their natural, inherent, inspired energy, or at best, doing it sporadically, unaware that this is the key to happiness, so this unused energy builds up, causing much of the disharmony and emptiness they feel within. You could be functional out in the world, earn a living doing some job you have no great love for and have a spouse and kids, but if you're not releasing your natural, inherent energy all the time, you will be out of harmony with yourself. The more unused energy inside of you, the more miserable you feel. Take that to the bank. This piece of wisdom is more valuable than all the collective works of self-help and psychobabble ever written, with all their discrete one-liners that add up to a big, fat zero in understanding the engine that is the human condition. Granted, the most important part of life is to survive. Earn enough money to live a basically comfortable life. After that, the game for people like me is to constantly release our inspired and other energies in order to stay close to that feeling that we're doing what we righteously should with our lives and having a blast, or at least a good time of it along the way. I was born to move and do things, to use up my natural energy to feel like I'm getting a good ride out of the deal, getting a thrill out of being alive, so to speak. I'm only happy when I'm constantly running with my life, releasing all that energy inside of me. This sets me up so that I feel good and am a greater lover to the people and pets in my life because I'm feeling good about myself and want to share it and pass it on, as opposed to the lie of our modern, pop culture society, which tells us all you need is love, so they can sell us all kinds of junk to supposedly enhance our images out there such that we will attract someone, find love and be happy according to the capitalist paradigm of happiness. In reality, happiness works the other way around. Find yourself first, what makes you happy by yourself day by day. After you've done this, you're more attractive by virtue of living an inspired life true to yourself. You'll attract high-quality people this way and want to share your life with someone to increase happiness for the two of you, as opposed to being an incomplete lost soul looking for some person to magically make you happy and fill up the emptiness. It ain't gonna happen. Happiness starts with an individual enlightening themselves. The daily routine. Everyone, regardless of station in life or wealth, starts out every day at a generic flatline mood. In order to achieve a state of happiness and feel loose, strong, and free, you have to purge the natural, inspired aesthetic loving energy you feel in your soul to reach your standard of what is worthy, great, meaningful, fun, joyful, beautiful, loving, and euphoric today, right now. If you don't do this, you'll just stay in that generic mood all day long. This generic mood might be feeling good for you because you're not in any pain and feeling complacently comfortable, but to people like me it's like, so what? It's generic. There's no high in it, no feeling of intensity or euphoria. I live by an inherent standard independent of the world's definition of happiness and success that tells me who I want to be and how to stay close to this personal archetype, this blueprint that was imprinted on my soul when I was conceived. Every day, I honor this essence by releasing a good dose of my natural inspired, hedonistic, aesthetic, sensual and loving energy to an intense level to reach my inner standard where I purged enough to make me feel like I took my life for a pretty good ride and done justice to the way my God created me. This is the only way to stay pure, loose, strong, free, and close to the ideal person you picture yourself as in your daydreams, especially as you age and see yourself slipping away from youthful vigor to old has-been, which everybody goes through at some point in time. Yet at middle age, I still got a strong connection to my youthful essence, even sexually. This is because I consciously held onto my standard all my life by methodically releasing inspired aesthetic energy every day to stay strong and pure. Many people are miserable because they either follow the standards of the world or try to find wholeness through pop culture entertainment and stuff at the mall. Many people are so brainwashed that they don't know they are an original individual away from the world system. Free, enlightened people see themselves away from the system and live by what they feel in their pure souls. It's not about excessive wealth beyond basic comfort or your image to others. It's about how closely you stay true to who you were born as over your lifetime and don't get taken over by either brainwash, pop culture consumerism or entropy. Inspiration is the main key of life, to know how to stay inspired all the time. The second main key is to know how to feel good most of the time by relishing in the passionate parts of life, the aesthetic, sensual, and loving. Make the best use of the natural energy you were born with and you will live a good life. Be true to yourself. Do not waste time on some dull career you have no interest in. Explore your life, create your own ideas and take ideas from out in the world both to know them and analyze them. Live by your own standard. Purge your natural creative intellectual and physical energy every day. This keeps you young and vital. Find something you like to do that can help people in a real way to earn a living as opposed to trying to be an artsy-fartsy type and create some work of art that serves no useful function or take on a dull career you have no interest in. Get to a state of being where you're constantly releasing inspired aesthetic energy in order to feel like you're always riding a wave of transcendence. You're born with innate wisdom and it also comes from life experience in the real world followed by an analysis of it. You don't need school for that, and if you think formal education gives you wisdom, you're wrong. That's one big lie from the system. True intellectuals are free thinkers. They're not bound by any box of anything. They don't have to be a cheerleader for any cause nor pay homage to past baggage like all the lies they were brought up to believe in the name of tradition, culture, and patriotism. Create your life as you live it. Don't use a rear-view mirror much. Look forward. All you really own is your inner sensibility. It's either strong, vital, and inspired or it's not. The light in your soul is either shining brightly or it's on low, nearly burned out. You can gauge your vitality by monitoring how much pure, natural, inspired energy you release every day for its own sake because you love doing it. Constantly purge your energy. I want to be proud of who I am, and the way I do that is to release my natural inspired energy to do something good and positive with my life every single day. I want to enjoy my life, have fun, feel all its pleasurable sensations in all its ways, through my own efforts, through chemical enhancements, and through the sensuous exploration of my carnal ID. I want to love my life and love the world with everything in it, including all people and animals, particularly the people and pets in my corner of the world. The only real prize of life is to stay close to your essence throughout their lives by releasing natural inspired aesthetic loving energy to honor who they were born with, the blueprint to be every single day. That's the difference between an enlightened free spirit and everybody else. An enlightened free spirit gets the most out of their lives by releasing all that natural energy in their souls, while generic people are floating through, absorbing the goals, ideals, advice, entertainment, and junk food the world is feeding them, buying into ideas of success, fun, enlightenment, and happiness that aren't necessarily inherent to them. You have three types of energy that really matter as far as living an aesthetic, spiritual, bohemian, interesting, intense life goes. I presume this is what you want, to live a life where you feel good almost all the time, as though you're taking it for a good to great ride, free, unfettered, unchained, with some gusto, joy, and a natural spring in your step. I call it the perfect feeling you're tapped into your groove, feeling unconscious, which means you intuitively feel everything you should do next, then do it. You only get like this one way. Feel it within your being. Be true to whatever is beautiful, sensuous, hedonistic, intense, creative, loving, and inspired within you, and don't buy into anything anyone else says without critically analyzing it through your own inherent filter called intuition and wisdom. Every morning, I start with a clean slate. I know I have to honor the abilities and power the gods gave me by releasing that energy today, right now. This daily process creates most of my feelings of well-being and transcendence. Through a process of experience and elimination, I found the few things I really like to do, and beyond that, all the entertainment and novelty the world throws at me means virtually nothing. It can't do much for me. If I go out and run a good distance or lift a ton of weight, I feel good. I've earned my self-respect and honored my primal physical archetype for the day. I'm nothing more or less than the free, untamed boy I was as a kid. The difference between me and most of the population is that I discovered that this is who I am, regardless of how the world tried to brainwash me, and now 40 years later, I'm one of the few people left my age who still has a strong connection to that pure, natural spirit I had as a kid. Everybody else has been brainwashed by one thing or another, or just let themselves get swept away by the marketing forces of the world that are selling a frivolous lifestyle geared to get people to equate happiness with spending money. One agenda that a lot of men get suckered into is this ideology of becoming a mature, serious-minded person holding down the front line of traditional mainstream conservative values as you age. You see it all the time. You had carefree, bohemian friends in college, then 10 years later when you see them again, they're talking like some clinical, overeducated fat ass, acting all important like they're holding the balance of life in the world through what they do, when we all know that the only thing that's really important is that you figure out what's good in you and do something positive with it, as opposed to working some job and swearing allegiance to some corporate, political, or ideological agenda that is unnatural next to what you feel in your soul. Your consciousness never changes after you become aware of it. You're always the same essence, but this essence can get massively covered over by the brainwash of the world. You either honor your pure essence and stay loose, strong, and free, or don't, in which case, you become a generic lost soul. Most people grow up to become something they're not as they allow themselves to get indoctrinated by the ambition, status, materialism, keeping up with the Joneses ideologies of the world system, then wonder why, if they're so successful according to society's standards, they still feel empty inside. It's simple. They sold their true natures for a lie. No amount of money, status, or stuff can give you a strong connection to your soul. You have to earn it for yourself every day. It's the act of doing those activities that makes an individual feel anywhere from good to great about their lives. It's a necessary release of your spirit or your life force day by day. People like me know that this is the answer to life. Keep moving with mostly inspired action from the soul and lesser amounts of aesthetic, hedonistic, and loving activities. Nothing else in the world can give me a sustained great feeling about my life, not money, material things, love, or even sex. Sex is fine, but it doesn't give you much self-respect, and it's finite. You can only do so much of it at a time. At the most, it's 10% of your day. Even if you have a harem or are a chronic wanker, it still comes out to less than 90 minutes a day. It's what you do with the bulk of your day that defines who you are for yourself. Release inspired energy like an untamed free bohemian and you'll always feel good. If you run with your true identity and constantly release your natural energy, you'll always be close to who you were born with the potential to be, but most people don't do this, which is why we have so many miserable, dragged out, depressed, generic, dull people in our society hooked on some drug or some frivolous pursuit like shopping or eating to help them deal with their empty lives. Just look around. How many people look happy, relaxed, natural, free, strong and vital, like they're doing what they want with their lives and getting some joy out of them. This is the entire key to life that very few people have discovered. Know who you are, then honor it by releasing energy to be true to it every day. I discuss it more extensively in my soul scale elsewhere. I am true to my soul by living by it all the time. Most people don't live by what's in their souls purely. They live by ideas and ideologies they got from the outside world. This is the source of most of the misery and disharmony in our modern, Western society, where people are not constantly worried about basic survival. Most people are not in harmony with either who they were born to be or who they want to be. Everybody sees themselves as a sleek, strong, vital, youthful-looking person in the fantasies of their minds. This is who your God created you to be, yet how many people are actually like the way they picture themselves in their dreams or fantasy action shots in their minds? There are other ways where we're not the people we want to be, such as mentally, emotionally, relationship-wise, materially, what you own, and status/popularity, how cool and special you think other people think you are. If you're enlightened, you don't care much about material needs beyond the basics, because your life is always about the current action of the moment, and what other people think of you is none of your business. It doesn't faze you either way, so that leaves the other few things that really matter, like physical power, mental strength, inspiration, creativity, emotional well-being, and relationships. If you're not the person you want to be in any of these areas, you're out of harmony with yourself. Simply release energy to make a noble effort to make them come to pass to the best of your ability. This is living in harmony with your true nature. Releasing your natural energy with some manner of gusto causes the transcendent, freeing effect that all true artists and free spirits crave for and aspire to reach. You're enlightened and free when you know what your lifeblood is, know you have to do it every day, and are true to it. Do you ever have a free feeling like you're running with your life like a racehorse in peak condition and it all seems so easy? Do you ever feel like you're having fun in the unconscious zone of your true nature, like the mighty eagle soars in the sky? I can feel this every day. All I have to do is go through my paces in releasing my natural energy, and I hit another grand slam in the experience of my life. Only a few people understand that the more intense you exert yourself to release your natural inspired energy, the better you feel and the more you regenerate yourself, because releasing intense inspired energy followed by rest is the only real fountain of youth. Not even love can match it, because you need action to stimulate the mind and move the body to the point where you've taxed yourself to a worthy level. This is the real secret that kept all those great visionaries going until well into old age, as opposed to that phony new age secret about attracting your desires through some kind of ethereal vibrations. Those great old artists and inspired minds like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, George Bernard Shaw and Thomas Edison intuitively knew this, but I'm the first guy as far as I can see who figured it out to its lowest terms and wrote it out here. Enlightenment is to realize there is one fixed essence that is you, that you must honor by releasing your natural energy in the face of all the brainwash and illusions of the world trying to make you something else, namely a pacified, functional worker, which some people have called a form of slavery, as opposed to doing your own thing to earn your money and take care of yourself. The corporate government mass media machine all make money and increase their power and influence when the economy is expanding, so they all have a vested interest in getting us hooked on the traditional work ethic and the Dale Carnegie, conventional self-help school of thought, which tells us to be eternally ambitious, to make more money, to buy more stuff, and try to impress others with what you own and your position out in the world. According to this way of thinking, we need to be constantly working for something tangible, so they have given us shopping malls full of useless things we don't need, and pop culture entertainment which contains a bunch of glittery, elitist images geared to make us envious and aspire to be like those so-called celebrities we see on the screen with all their cool, glittery stuff. That's what's really going on. You really don't need that much in the way of material things. Pop culture entertainment is a wash for someone like me who is much more interested in thinking my own thoughts, exploring my own life, and doing my own thing. The system has done a great job brainwashing most of us. If you don't believe me, go to the mall on any Saturday afternoon. People are busy buying useless junk that does nothing to enhance the aesthetic-inspired spiritual pursuit of their lives, and they never stop. I know because I live about 500 yards from a big shopping mall. What are they buying there all the time? When you constantly release your natural energy, you're loose, free and enjoying your life. Everything else is minor next to this. You're having a good time. What do you care about all that propaganda crap they're constantly pumping at you over the airwaves, reinforced by all the clones you're surrounded by? When you don't release your natural energy, you're out of harmony with yourself and it reverberates through your entire being. You achieve personal spiritual harmony by releasing large amounts of inspired energy every day to make you feel like you just took your life for a pretty good run or hit a grand slam in the experience of it. The way to live a free, inspired life is to know you have an inherent standard, then meet it every day with intense action to be the person you really want to be, and after you do your inspired activities, which should be your life force and joie de vivre, joy for living, round it out to pursue your aesthetic sensibilities, love of what is beautiful, hedonistic whims, pursuits of G-rated and carnal pleasures, and connect with people and pets to give them some love and get some back. It's a spiritual, aesthetic, free, beautiful bohemian feeling like I'm taking my life for a good ride, doing what I was created to do with some joy and gusto in my heart. It's like Zorba the Greek getting drunk, dancing with reckless abandon. He feels free. He's expending his natural energy, feeling great about it, grooving to his life, going with his true nature. Once you find your true self, it's often just a narrow range of things you really want to do in the inspired, aesthetic, hedonistic and loving senses. You must have a real interest in whatever is original and inspired within you as an individual if you want to be the true winner of your life, not just a winner by society's standards. If you're a generic person, it means you've been brainwashed by the system and now you're a consumer to the point of material excess and a spectator of pop culture entertainment to the extreme, looking out there at these things to fill up what your problem is, an empty soul out of touch with itself. This is the basis of all addictions and most mental illnesses. Chapter 3. Depression is the cash cow of the mental health business. Depression without psychobabble. 1. Action, not therapy. The greatest despair is to not become the person you were meant to be. Søren Kierkegaard, the biggest cause of depression on the planet. Stop boring everybody and do something useful for a change. Comment made to suicidal man in the movie The Man in the Iron Mask. At that point the epiphany came to me that everyone's life is a Greek tragedy. It's stupid to feel sorry for yourself. And it's arrogant and presumptuous to do so. There is nobody in our world who is not going to go through a tragedy, even if they have an employee base of themselves. Any business person who's been around for more than a few years has had setbacks, some of which are their own fault, some of which have nothing to do with them. They were on the wrong side of the street and got hit by a bus. Michael Saylor, Internet CEO, as quoted in The Dinner Club by Shannon Henry, 2002. Be not afraid of life. Believe that life is worth living and your belief will help create the fact. William James, The Will to Believe. Everybody, or at least the conventional mental health establishment and most of the general population who are brainwashed by this mental health industry, thinks that depression is this deep, mysterious disease with deep roots that requires both psychotherapy and drugs to heal the afflicted, but I say it's a lie and a big money racket. There's nothing mysterious about depression. It's uninspiration. You create your own biochemistry by the way you live. All the depression pills, shock treatments, and therapy for deep wounded past conflicts is a money grab that doesn't do anything to solve depression. There's only one way in the world anybody can beat depression: discover what naturally inspires you, then do it every day with fervor like an artist paints his pictures. There are two ways to get uninspired/depressed. You live a generic, mundane life. You don't do anything tough or passionate. Some tragedy happens like death, divorce, or loss of money that gets you down. Regardless of the cause, the end result is always the same. You sit around doing nothing, which breeds uninspiration even more so until you're feeling like a pathetic, whipped dog. All your natural energy is sitting inside of you unused, making you feel out of harmony with yourself. The only solution is to release it with passion. When you're down and tired, if you stay lethargic, the neurotransmitters in your brain will not be stimulated, therefore you will stay down and sink further. All the drugs and psycho bullshit in the world will not solve the real problem: feeling good about your life, having something to live for that inspires you and gives you your self-respect, releasing some natural energy to make you feel like you're taking your life for a great ride. It's that simple. Depression is the flip side of inspiration that the medical establishment makes billions of dollars from simply because we live in a lost, brainwashed society where people plug into society's definition of happiness and success and do not follow the true inspired sensibilities they have buried away in their souls/true natures. Why is it that every day when I run, I feel anywhere from good to great afterwards? Normal, generic people don't feel this. Neither do depressed people. You have to have the guts to do tough, worthy, stimulating things to keep that feeling of your spirit alive. The first problem is that we as individuals do not follow our true natures. I believe there's a great inspired artist, bohemian free spirit locked away inside of everybody that has been repressed by the brainwash of society that wants good, little, conformist working clones. The second is that rather than following our own standards as individuals, we buy into the standards of happiness and success from the outside world, which has the effect of making us always feel deficient because our house is never big enough, we never have a high enough job title, our car is never cool enough, etc. On top of this, society tells us to dream, so we have all these pop culture, capitalist dreams, but nobody tells us that very few people will become pop stars, professional athletes, movie stars, or even at the top of their field, whatever it may be. People fall to pieces when their big dreams go bust, or they achieve them and find they still feel empty, but in truth it should be an awakening, because at some point, enlightened people realize there are dreams from the outside world and who you really are in your true nature. Dreams from the outside world mean nothing to me, but millions of people get depressed when they don't achieve the dreams they borrowed from out there rather than following their true natures and being happy with that. This is why I know all this stuff about fame, career success, and striving for more money than you'll ever need are all transient. The only way to live happy is to wake up every day and be inspired about your life. Do something that makes you blow off a good load of your natural energy. This is what earns you your self-respect. The outside world can't give it to you. A Rwandan native made the observation that the medical health workers who came over from the West after the massacres of the mid-1990s had a very strange way of dealing with depression that he couldn't understand. They take the afflicted individual, shut him up in a room and make him talk endlessly about all the negative things in his life. This is counter to the natural way to heal according to him: get on with life. Strive to enjoy it by doing things, go outdoors, get some sunshine, go out into the community to see the people and feel the communal energy, listen to music, play music, praise God, be with friends, etc. This Rwandan guy is describing the heart of my theory of depression, which is so much simpler and more honest than what the psychobablists have done to complexify it all in an effort to separate themselves from the masses as profound intellectuals with advanced knowledge available only to a few who study in school for many years, and, of course, to make money by sucking the people into thinking there's something deep and advanced about depression that only they know about when there really isn't. Depression without psychobabble too. Wounding involves a painful excursion into pathos wherein the anguish is enormous and the suffering cracks the boundaries of what you thought you could bear. And yet in the Greek tragedies, the gods force themselves into human consciousness at the time of pathos. It is only at this time of wounding that the protagonist grows into a larger sense of what life is all about. Jean Houston, The Search for the Beloved, 1987. The greatest pain is often the place of the greatest growth. Many people find their inspiration through depression. I think I know how many times one has to start again and how often one feels that one cannot start again. And yet, on pain of death, one can never remain where one is. It is a mighty heritage, it is the human heritage, and it is all there to trust. This is why one must say yes to life and embrace it wherever it is found, and it is found in terrible places. Nevertheless, there it is, and if the father can say, "Yes, Lord," the child can learn that most difficult of words, Amen. James Baldwin, Nothing Personal. You need chaos in your soul to give birth to a dancing star. Nietzsche. Depression is the flip side of inspiration. When inspiration fails, persistence prevails. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. Depression. Proverbs 13:12. A longing fulfilled is sweet to the soul. Inspired action. Proverbs 13:19. A merry heart does good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. Proverbs 17:22. Depression has been a subject of concern and analysis as far back as Solomon's laments in the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. Psalm 107:12 reads, "They were worn out from hard work, they would fall down and no one would help." Hopelessness, depression. Saint Thomas Aquinas said melancholy is a disease of the soul caused by evil thoughts. In the modern era, Robert Burton, who eventually committed suicide, wrote a masterpiece treatise on depression in 1621 called The Anatomy of Melancholy, which has been a classic for the past 400 years, with the New York Review of Books re-releasing it again for the current era. He seems to understand that melancholy is not just sadness over something bad that happened, but that it's also a lack of vitality, a state where everything an afflicted individual does is a plodding effort, a deep chore. For the melancholy person, even getting out of bed to go outside to the outhouse can be a monumental chore. He said the process of writing the book gave him some comfort in relieving some of his depression, this inspired, purposeful activity in the midst of his madness, but the depression still came back. He seemed to live through cycles of depression broken up by short bursts of inspired activity. The drug companies have gotten in on the action lately and seem to have replaced the psychobablists with their pill solution to depression, but the psychobablists still make money by writing up the prescriptions for these drugs, then ***ing with the client for a few minutes, but it's all an overblown con game. Depression is not this big, bad disease. The medical people call it a disease because then it means that it's beyond your control and only they can treat it, which means big bucks for them. When it's classified as a disease, medical insurance covers it. Depression is a tired, uninspired person who has lost his spark for life. You create your depression, so it follows logically that you can get rid of it if you want. I know a few people who say they're manic depressive or bipolar and take a bunch of pills to deal with it. It's the perfect excuse to be a wimp in life, collect a disability check and not be accountable for your actions. Just say you're depressed. Since we create our own biochemistry by the way we live, the longer you sit around doing nothing, the more you feel sorry for yourself and the less endorphins your brain produces, so the more down you get. It's loss of self. You're far away from the person you really want to be. Depression is just uninspiration. Your natural destiny is to be inspired and live an active life. If you live like this, you will get tired from time to time and need rest, but you'll never get depressed. I personally think sadness is good for at least one season of life, because then you know how ugly and hopeless it is, and if you're wise, you'll use your guts and strength to never go back there. When you're sad, use it to find a new level of enlightenment, to find out why you're sad and what you can do to stop being sad. Even though I believe depression can be caused by a number of precursor factors, depression is mostly caused by disappointment within yourself that you're not doing what you want in life and not using up your natural store of inspired energy to live out your essence, that blueprint you were born with to guide you in reaching your fullest potential as a human being. Even if you don't know this is the cause, it is. It's simply you not doing what you really want to with your life. Instead of moping, your real job is to do what you want to the best of your ability and resources. Nobody controls your attitude but you, so it always comes down to you with no one else to blame. The mental health professionals are not that advanced that they really understand brain biochemistry. They say they have antipsychotic drugs to help crazy people think more rationally, but as far as using drugs to change mood as with antidepressant drugs, it's like putting a band-aid on your chest to fight a heart attack. The problem is one of your soul, your essence as a human being. You don't fix it by trying to manipulate neurohormone levels in the brain, because even if they temporarily, artificially lift your mood, you're still stuck with the same, uninspired, dull you. The drugs might help by giving an extremely down person enough inspiration to get up and do something, which could be the precipitating factor to lift the fog through constant inspired activity and help the afflicted, forlorn soul in finding a sense of purpose in life. Incidentally, a nun once told me what she called a sure cure if you're feeling down. Find somebody who needs your help more than you need your self-pity and help them. There's plenty of need in this world. Once you start working helping people, the work itself takes your mind off your pathetic depression and gives you a sense of meaning. Now back to my bit on drugs. As far as I know, the drug companies are not very sophisticated in understanding brain biochemistry. They can't really open a living skull up to see what's going on. All I see is two extremes in the so-called mood drugs. They can hype people up with amphetamines. They can calm them down with barbiturates. That's as deep as they get. They have no exact knowledge of brain chemistry beyond this. They don't know what the neurotransmitters are doing or exactly how they work. Except for a few bona fide organic brain disorders caused by a physical defect in the brain, the entire mental health field is a massive con job. A lot of people fall for it because they're stupid. They were fooled into thinking these phonies running around with white lab coats on acting like they know what's going on really have some kind of advanced knowledge they're not party to, but of course it's a lie. Depression without psychobabble 3. There's no magical wisdom about depression anywhere. This article is as close as you'll get to the truth of the matter. A lot of people buy into it because it's a perfect way to justify the pathetic lives they're living, blame it on some phony mental condition so they don't have to take responsibility for being weak, uninspired, poor excuses for human beings. Depression is the fancy clinical term for a person who is uninspired/feeling weak. All you have to do is get inspired by finding something you really like to do that gives you a sense of purpose, earns you some cash if that's your problem, and keep doing it every day like I do. To me, this disease of depression is a laugh because I think of my Polish peasant ancestors from 100 years ago or so. They didn't have time to mope around and feel bad because their father hollered at them when they were kids. They did farm work every day to survive. The activity kept their spirits up. That's all it takes, constant daily activity, which should be normal for inspired, enlightened people anyway. Depression's death knell is the spiraling pit you fall into when you sit around both not doing much, hence not releasing your natural inspired energy, and thinking too much, letting all those negative thoughts take you over. Negative thoughts can't be changed exclusively by willing to think positive thoughts, nor can depression be solved by prescription drugs. The only one solution to depression is enough inspired action from the soul to consistently exert yourself to a worthy level, expend some of your natural inspired energy such that you release some endorphins and feel alive, like you're doing what you were created to do. Over time, this activity will replace your negative thoughts and inspire you about your life. This is my thesis on this massive business venture they call depression, which is simply a word for someone who's living an uninspired life regardless of the cause. The only solution is to get your inspiration, aka vital spark, back. Pills can't do it because you need action to do it. I invite your feedback. Send me your comments if you agree with me or think I'm wrong and have a better concept. Antonia means the inability to experience pleasure. Woody Allen's movie from 1975 or thereabouts, Annie Hall, was originally titled Anhedonia, but they figured no one would get it. The next time you watch it, observe Woody's character. Depression is a chance to let the gods enter into you to reveal the power you have in there. It's simply people living boring lives, the opposite of inspiration on the inspired soul scale. A lot of people get depressed because they lose themselves by either taking care of another person like kids or a spouse, lose themselves to an ambition of the world like career success which does nothing for their real internal states, lose themselves to regular problems like money shortages and personality conflicts, lose themselves to an addiction, lose themselves by being brainwashed clones, letting the traditional work ethic and pop culture entertainment define their lives for them, or lose themselves by sitting around in a couch potato pit, letting it spiral in on them. Some people get depressed because they're spread too thin with too many things going on in their lives. In that case, cut out everything except for what you need to do to earn money and stay spiritually inspired. Many people get depressed because they give control of their lives to the outside world, basing their happiness or lack thereof to their level of success or failure out there. This is a big one. I was watching the Surreal Life TV show a few hours ago, and this girl starts crying because she's now in the B room and feels bad about it. I can read her right away. She's not strong or enlightened, because if she was, she would know that there is her standard and the standards of the world, and an enlightened person could care less whether they match up to the standards of the world. It's all about their own standards. When you're depressed, the engine for your life is cut off. Your soul feels dead. All the self-help mumbo-jumbo positive affirmations in the world are useless. The only solution is to get the engine going again, to know what your soul is all about and take inspired action from it. If you truly live for your soul, nothing much will get to you unless you will it so first. Your peace is in your soul, nowhere else. This works both ways. If you suddenly achieve great success in the world and everybody's telling you how great you are, you don't let your ego destroy you. There are other reasons for depression, namely loneliness, alienation, feelings that you're not connected to anyone else in a warm, comfortable way, perhaps a feeling that you're not part of the world or that life is passing you by, but they all stem from a weak connection to your soul. We're all loners stuck in our heads, that's a fact. You can have a great intimate day with a soulmate or a group of kindred spirits, but the next day, it's still you alone stuck in your head. You're not really alone though. You're united with the rest of the humanity by your very existence as a human being. Every other human soul is more or less like your soul. Everybody else gets those lonely feelings too, so don't sweat it too hard, just enter the harbor for your soul for a while and you'll be alright. You have to accept the state of affairs, existential loneliness as it's sometimes called, find stability within and deal with your need for human contact in a calm, reasonable way, not letting it destroy you into the depths of loneliness. It always comes back to that insular Tahiti within, aka your highest vision of aesthetic beauty. This can get you through the tough times until you ride your inspiration to the fullest once it hits again. Inspiration is control of self. If you're feeling down, get control back by doing something that inspires and develops you in some way, like expending some energy from your soul. In order to be compassionate to others, you have to be compassionate to yourself first. Don't do so much for your family that you get depressed. Even if being with your family and taking care of them is a great source of inspiration for you, there is still a piece of you that's a loner, an individual with individual fantasies of a great ideal life. You have to feed these fantasies by living them out to some extent. Take care of your inner soul and use that as a base from which to grow. You create your state of being. Life is lived on a continuum, not in the packaged, clinical view that psychologists like to box us into, in which there's a condition called depression. If you're feeling depressed or uninspired, you simply have to get inspired and take some soulful, positive action to get out of it. That's all it is. It's not this great disease that demands all manner of pills and psychotherapy bull. If you're down, rest a while, think it through, come to a conclusion of what you must do, which always ends up with moving on with your life, then get up off your ass and start doing some kind of inspired soulful pursuit. If you're too lazy, too wimpy, or too weak, blame the mug in the mirror, not some event or some biochemical fiction in your brain that some ass in a white lab coat tells you because he doesn't really know. There's no way to measure hormone levels in the brain unless you're dead. There's no way they can know much about your biochemistry, certainly no way to know if you as individual are experiencing some kind of endorphin deficiency, because they have no baseline as to what's normal for you. Work for most of us kills our souls, hence inspiration, because it's not inherent within us. Typically a lot of us, like housewives, sit around and watch TV all day with boring lives, then mope and wonder why they feel so empty and depressed when it's simply caused by living boring, dull lives. Part of it is the crap on TV. Why would any sane person watch those stupid negative talk shows with all the weak victims on them, then watch all that off in the cloud soap opera stuff? I used to ride my inspired self until I crashed, then went to the other extreme in the enjoyment of life, where I would try to get as high and transcendent as I could on drugs, booze, etc. But that was then, this is now. I let out some inspired energy, then relax and enjoy my life. As a younger man, I used to burn myself out through intense living, which made me manic, then tired out, feeling empty until I recuperated. It used to be high peaks and valleys for me, but now it's lower peaks and smaller valleys. I'm more temperate. Some people call it manic depression, I call it enlightenment, because as a human being, it's only natural that I experience highs and lows, but they're all just transient feelings. Through it all, I always have a strong base of identity. Nothing really phases me or disrupts my stability within all that much. After you come down from a prolonged period of chemical highs, like a day or so of getting high, you've burned all the endorphins out of your system. You feel empty. So what? Just sleep it off, then the next day burn off some positive inspired energy and you'll be fine. The problem starts when you try to catch a buzz every day without any inspired activity in between. Being inspired and active keeps you happy. Sitting around relaxing is great, but if you cross the line into rut or mundanity, you lose yourself and get depressed. Everybody is a victim of this phenomena. Anybody, no matter how strong, wealthy, enlightened and inspired, will start to lose themselves after 4 days of inertia, where you sit around not doing much beyond watching TV, getting high, eating good tasting junk food, and doing nothing worthy that makes you work, expend, and strive. You feel your body start to wither away, and your mind follows as you feel so lethargic in that pit you've created for yourself. The winners of life have the sense to keep renewing themselves through inspired action. Everybody else fades away. Walk into any supermarket anytime and watch the people. A few look like they're focused on living great lives as the art of life itself. Everybody else lives in complacency. Most young people under 25 look fresh and inspired, but for most of them, it's just a byproduct of youth. The battle starts after 30, when youth cannot be taken for granted anymore. That's when you start to get the body and face you deserve, as opposed to being born with. This is the game of life, to keep getting your groove back over and over again. The lesson is that sitting around as couch potatoes without a sense of inspired purpose will make everyone eventually get depressed. Even though I generally reject psychology as an art form of useless knowledge, they occasionally come up with a useful tidbit of info. Psychologists studying depression have found that if you sleep too much, it somehow causes depression. In my own life, I've noticed that if I sit around too much doing nothing in particular, particularly nothing useful from my store of natural inspiration, I start to lose myself, then mourn for my lost self, and this can spiral ever so easily. I even found the same with my dog after I didn't take him out for his runs for about a week because I was too busy. Dogs are just like us, they get depressed if they don't get to release their natural energy and feel useful, like they matter somehow, like accompanying me on my runs and giving me love. After that, I never neglected him again. Anyway, my point is simple. Depression may be caused by major problems in some cases, like the death of a spouse, getting wiped out financially, etc., but it's largely caused and compounded simply by inactivity, and the only solution is inspired action, the release of positive energy in anything just to get moving and keep at it. I can get manic anytime I want by working out hard for a week straight and doing some manner of focused creative activity. By the 8th day, I'm vital. If I want to get depressed, I just have to sit in one spot for a week straight watching TV 15 hours a day. It's great to do for a while, but you will get depressed about it at some point. It's all a conscious process in my mind. I can only stay inspired for so long, then I want to relax and do carnal, sensual, hedonistic things for a while. As long as I'm active, I can't get depressed. Once I stop and do nothing for a while, it's very easy to get that mundane feeling. Sitting around without an inspired activity will put the most stable of us into a mundane rut. This is the golden rule of depression. All the psychobabble in the world can't touch the inspiration loss of self-continuum as the golden rule of life. The biochemical basis of depression has some merit, but they try to solve the problem by prescribing pills because they really want to make money, when the truth is that all pills are toxic to the body, and the use of them to solve a mental lapse of willpower is a violation of the human spirit. You create your own biochemistry. Action causes the release of endorphins like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, which cause happiness. Sitting around causes the non-release of endorphins, which make you feel miserable. Regardless of how many antidepressants you take, you'll never snap out of it until you take action via some creative, inspiring, soulful pursuits on a regular basis. Stay close to your soul no matter what, because it's all you ever really got. Always remember that your only reality is you in your own headspace. Even if they held a banquet for you where they had a big speech about how fantastic you are, gave you a great big award, everybody told you how great you were, and a bunch of groupies asked you for your autograph, your best bet is to just laugh it off and know that all that matters is that solid base within, not them with their transient praise. Regardless of what pit you're in now or how deep it is, anybody can crawl out with just simple action towards what you believe in on a daily basis. Everything comes down to action and attitude. It's so easy for your attitude to fluctuate between inspiration and mundanity. The solution to life is simply action, preferably to your vision of aesthetic beauty. You have to snap out of it, get up off your butt and start taking baby steps toward your future. It's the only way. It's the same story for everyone. Everyone goes through these little cycles and mini crises all the time. You gotta have a mission or sense of destiny to keep you going and get you back in the game. It doesn't have to be a plan for success in the outside world, just a plan to live a great inspired life for yourself day by day. I could care less about success in the outside world. I just want enough money to continue to pursue my free life. As I already said, it's all about willpower, attitude, and intelligent action. Once you're back in the flow, you'll be fine, but it's that first effort to get it back that's tough. Some guy on public TV said that receiving an act of kindness or giving one increases serotonin levels, which alleviates depression. The entire book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, written by an aging, despondent King Solomon, is a good commentary on depression. Books about depression are at #616.8527 at the library. Chapter 4. A Holistic Depression Treatment Guide. Holistic Depression Treatment. The modern medical system treats depression with antidepressant drugs, which provide temporary relief but have harmful side effects and do not remove the causes or prevent its recurrence. Regulate your diet to get vitamins and minerals. Exercise builds self-respect and endorphins. Eat foods rich in B vitamins, such as whole grains, green vegetables, eggs and fish. Exclude tea, coffee, alcohol, chocolate, and cola, all white flour products, sugar, food colorings, chemical additives, white rice and strong condiments. Inspired activity will heal a broken spirit. It changes the levels of hormones in blood and may elevate your beta endorphins, mood-affecting brain chemicals. Relax and meditate. Meditation involves training the mind to think positive thoughts. Listen to good music. Relax. Eat celery. Take a warm bath with Epsom salts. Cut our sugar, caffeine, and artificial food additives. Eat healthy foods. Eat oregano. Eat watercress and spinach. Bananas contain serotonin and norepinephrine. Drink chamomile tea, sage tea, and peppermint tea. Drink saffron tea with honey. Eat citrus fruits. Have sex. Drink fruit juice. Eat onions. Holistic depression treatment according to me. Depression can be caused by any bad piece of news, but it persists when an individual does not release their natural energy day by day. When you don't release your natural energy day by day, you're betraying yourself little by little. You get to a point where you're far away from the person you were inherently born to be and want to be. People who do not release the bulk of their original, natural, inspired energy every day get depressed and stay there unless they find a way to live by their true nature and culture a strong spirit. Pretty well everything is a sales pitch by the mental health drug machine to try to convince people that depression is caused by some illusory biochemical imbalance they have in the brain. It's a lie because they have no way to test this. Everybody's neurotransmitter baselines are different. Brain scans can see brain activity and inactivity, but they cannot say that low endorphin levels are inherent simply because you create your biochemistry day by how you live. Somebody depressed has low endorphin levels. If they get inspired and active, that changes immediately, but they don't tell you this because they can't make money off it. If you take care of your health and live an inspired life, that's the best you can do short of buying into the conventional mental health industry's drugs and psychobabble therapy. All the mental health drugs in the world will not help because feeling down is caused by a betrayal of one's spirit. You have to live by your true free spirit in order to defeat depression. Western medicine doctors almost always will prescribe a class of drugs called the SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, and Effexor. These medicines slow the breakdown and clearing of serotonin so that it stays in the brain to help a person feel good longer, but serotonin always ends up breaking down, and if you don't release natural inspired energy to replenish it, which will make your spirit strong, your spirit will always be weak. The drugs won't do much beyond giving you a temporary buzz like booze. Common side effects of the SSRI drugs include weight gain, loss of sexual energy, and bouts of anger or anxiety. Eat healthy, wholesome foods. Minimize junk foods and processed foods. Herbs to improve depression. There are several herbs that may be helpful in improving depression. St. John's wort, hypericum is the active component of St. John's wort. Valerian. Ginseng. Sami. Tryptophan, L-tryptophan, 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan. Amino acids. Calcium. Amino acids. Black cohosh. Cell salts. Fish oil. Ginkgo biloba. Ignatia. Iproflavone. Kava. Milk thistle. Phosphatidylserine. Pulsatilla. Same. St. John's wort. Selenium. Sepia. Valerian. YouTube video, What They're Not Telling You About Depression on the Paul Joseph Watson channel. Is depression just an excuse for losers who refuse to take responsibility for lifestyle choices? Holistic depression websites. Compelime.com/stjohnswordfacesheet.htm. holistic-online.com/herbal-med/_herb/h20.htm, St. John's wort info. drpodel.org/alternative_treatments_for_depression.shtml. Alternative treatments for depression. 732-565-9224. 123relax.com. AHA.org, the American Holistic Health Association. AlternativeDippers-therapy.com/holistic-treatment-for-depression.html. AlternativesForHealing.com. AltheaLTHSearch.com. Amarian.com, natural alternative to drugs. Anxiety-depression-info.org. Awardspace.com/holistic-depression-treatment. BeliefNet.com/story/38/3809_1.html, Healing the Holiday Blues, a holistic approach to coping. BellaOnline.com/subjects/7494.asp. BodyHealthSoul.com/depression treatment-blog. Breathing.com/articles/depression.htm. Casey.com/depressionlenve.htm. CreativeHealingarts.org. CuriOurDepression.com. DanceTherapyDepression.org. DepressionHappens.com. Depression Treatment 678.com/holistic-depression-treatment.html. Depression-treatment-expert.com. DepressionTreatmentNow.com. discoverandrecover.wordpress.com/2008/04/14/depression alternative treatment success. drwill.com/drw/art00696/depression-treatment. earthclinic.com/cures/schizophrenia.html. This vitamin, good for SZ and bipolar, depression. mclear.com, emotional clearing. easinarticles.com, aromatherapy for depression. 4hourworkweek.com/blog/2008/01/23/depression. How you label determine show you feel. hillel.com/healingnews/ug/manic_depression.html. healthcentral.com/depression. healthfindershub.com/holistic-health/holistic-depression-treatment.php. healthynewage.com. hellometro.com. holistic-and-integrated-medicine.com. holistichealingcenter.com/hypnotherapy.html. holistichealthtools.com. holistichealthtopics.com. holisticjunction.com. holisticjunction.com/categories/hpd/depression.html. holisticmed.com/book/bk_depression.html. holistic-online.com/remedies/depression/dep_aromatherapy.htm. holisticonline.com/remedies/depression/dep_home.htm. holisticprimarycare.net. holisticwebdirectory.com. instincttoheal.org. mdjunction.com/tag/holistic-approach-to-depression. methodsofhealing.com. momstoday.com/articles/1749.php, treating depression naturally. mountmadonna.org, yoga cures depression, retreat in a mountaintop setting. nativeremedies.com. naturalnews.com. nccm.nih.gov, National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine. nccm.nih.gov, National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine. neurostartEMS.com, Transcranial Therapy TMS. newlifejournal.com. orthoesia.com/hh.doc. physicaladvisor.com/holistic_medicine.htm. professorshouse.com/family/health/holistic-treat-depression.aspx. selfgrowth.com/holistic10.html. shirleys-wellness-cafe.com. shirleyswellnesscafe.com/stress.htm, healing depression, a drugless approach. soul-awakening.com/philosophy/healing-depression.htm. theholisticcare.com. ultimatedepressioncure.com. ultimate-depression-cure.com. sixlip.com, herbal replacement serotonin reuptake. sixvitas.ca/estaro.html. whitemountaincenter.com, White Mountain Center for Holistic Health. wholehealthmd.com, Reston, VA. yogafordepression.com. yun-method.com/depression_relief.